It busted in my teeth. So
She said, I'm going to put my stock smile on. Yo, you funny. But anyway, everybody, this is Odell Bazell, and I'm excited, really excited about this interview. I have with me the doctor, Brandi Baldwin. If you don't know who she is, don't worry. That's why I'm here, to introduce you to some incredible people that you might not know, but you need to know. Not going to give you an official introduction or anything about her because she's Googleable. So look her up. She's doing amazing things all over this great country. Dr. Brandi, how you doing? How you living?
I'm doing good. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to come on. So, I'm ready to get it in. Let's go.
Good deal. Good deal. Now, I will be very frank, as I usually am when I speak, that being in the speaking world as long as I have been, I've had trouble. Not saying that they're not out there, but I've had trouble finding Black women like around my age that actually like speak and like that's a huge part of their business. I know a lot that work at schools that I've spoken at that do it on the side or that, do it here and there. But you are one of the few. They're like, I can literally count on my hands how many I know personally. So I want you to kind of walk everybody through like how you got to where you are now with your company, with your speaking business, with your books. Like, how did you start? Did you start thinking like, I want to be a professional speaker like this person? Or was it kind of like, I could do this because I've seen somebody else do it? And like, take us through that.
Well, I started off with the idea of even being in front of any type of audience in my master's program. So I got a master's in organizational development, and there are different kind of like tracks that you can go through. So some people were going to go straight into consulting. Some people were going to go into HR. And for me, based on what my advisor told me, he was like, you have the gift of gab. You're a great communicator. He was like, you probably should be a facilitator. And I was like, okay, facilitating what? And he was like, professional development topics start with what we've learned in the program. I'm like, all right, bet. So I literally started off doing professional development for teachers and educators. They need a certain amount of CEUs or continuing ed credits every year. So I got into that space and became an approved provider. I looked at all the topics that they had, and I picked like the 2 or 3 that I thought that I could speak to, which was like dealing with difficult parents, conflict management, and like a generic communications course, like generic. I dusted my textbooks off literally and started to teach them exactly what I was being taught in my master's program, and how that sort of transition was. And then let me tell you, now this is over 10 years ago, and this is to urban educators who dealt with kids and children who had a variety of different types of needs. And like, so this, I wasn't teaching like private school teachers and educators, like it was real. Sometimes I'd walk in, people's arms would be folded. They'd be looking at me like, what is she going to tell? She's this young, what is she going to teach us? But what I learned through those experiences of having maybe 6 people in a room, 10, 12 people in a room, was that I took their reaction and their responses and their questions while I was there. And then I began to customize and have my own voice. And one thing that they said was, you're different. You're not like the other trainers that come in here and are stuck to their slides or stuck to their main points. You kind of let us talk it out. And so I thought, okay, good. That's just my style. I wasn't trying to do that. But I think one thing that has helped to transition me at a time when typically at that time speakers were older white males who had worked in the workforce for many years and then had become consultants and then became speakers. Like that was the landscape at the time. One of the things that helped me was I, on accident, was doing everything the wrong way. I didn't know. I didn't have a model. I wasn't following anyone. And so I was kind of a breath of fresh air. And I got that one call from someone who was in a training, and they said, hey, my husband works in corporate America. Would you like to speak at one of their events or, that they have coming up? And I was like, sure. I just said yes. before I got the details. Wasn't paid a whole bunch at the time, but anything was great for me then. Long story short, I did that one, and organically over, the next several years, I was able to just get invited by word of mouth. To this day, I just got a speaking reel about a year ago. I've never had a speaking reel and have been booked for years as a speaker. And so again, we can talk about it in more detail, but I didn't follow the tried and true kind of steps because I didn't know any better. But what I did know is if I was myself and if I was authentic to my unique perspective, I'd be able to get far. And that's proven to kind of work in my favor. So
I love that. And I just want to unpack a couple of things that you said that I think some people might have missed, but I want to make sure that I bring it back. Now, you're going to have to help me with this acronym, as you have had to do multiple times. CEU? What is it? Which one is it?
Yes. CEUs, continuing ed credits, continuing education units is what they call them. Yeah.
So what you did and what I heard you say and what I know from, talking to you is you were speaking at places that people had to be to get their stuff. Like they had to be there. So you went there, you let the light shine on you, on your personality, on your expertise and all that stuff. And so that I wanted to bring that out because when people say organically, and in this age of social media, a lot of like organic reach and all that stuff, that doesn't mean that you're out there just like not working and that people are just finding you all, oh, you found this selfie organically or whatever. No, you're out there working.
Absolutely.
You're working for a group of people. They have to be there. They have to be plugged in. So you have a captive audience. And so then you continuously serve that captive audience. And then somebody said, hey, would you do this? So I wanted to point that out, CEU. So if you're listening to this and you're able to get into that, do it, shine, show up and do your thing. But then the second thing that I wanted to bring out, you said you didn't have a speaking reel until about a year ago. Now, I met you, I want to say close to 3 years ago, as of this recording, close to 3 years ago. And I stalk people, y'all, not in a creepy way, not in a creepy way. Let me clean it up. Every conference I go to, I look at the other speakers and I'm like, who that? And I saw you out, and I would have never thought that somebody that had your resume, that had your look, and I mean your professional look, all the images and all the imagery, didn't have a speaking reel. I want you to kind of walk us through what that marketing looks like when you didn't, all those years you didn't have one, and what it looks like now.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. That's a good question. So, first and foremost, when it comes to those early stages, and even with the CEU courses that I was like teaching and facilitating, I also submitted RFPs. Here I go, requests for proposals. But I submitted workshop proposals every single month. Probably I was averaging 5 to 7 proposals that I was putting out there every month for HR conferences, all type of talent and development conferences, professional development. So for, I would say about a year and a half, every month I was, putting out these feelers to see if I could speak. The majority of those opportunities were free. But I will say, the better that I got with my speaking and my brand and just my flow, I would go and speak in front of an audience. Maybe it might be 30 people, might be 70 people, whatever. And then one person would come up after and say, hey, I have something else. And then as I, continued, instead of one person, now 3 people. And then, 10 people will come up and say, I really think you would be great for a future experience. So what happened was, after that first year and a half of submitting all those proposals and doing the CEU mandated training, like you said, even though I had a captive audience, nobody wants to show up to a mandated training. So it was kind of like a harder sell for me to come in there, because they were like, look, I really wouldn't even be here if I didn't have to do this, So I had to kind of work that and warm people up. But because I was consistently doing these free engagements and getting better at it and getting more interest, I would say about on year 3, I saw a huge explosion where the same people that saw me a year ago or 2 years ago came back, and they all came back. Because when people say, oh, you would be great for this, it's not right away. Some things took 9 months, and they would finally email me and say, I saw you 9 months ago at this place, but the way it compounded, and this was not by design, but this is how it happened organically. All of a sudden, that third year, I was getting calls and emails left and right. And so by the fourth year of me speaking, I stopped doing those RFPs. And those, I have not submitted a proposal to speak in years. I get invitations to speak now. And so for your audience of speakers, and they're trying to think, well, how do I start? And how do I, in my experience, I can't coach or teach anyone how to kind of put a website together, put a reel together, find that signature talk, and then sell yourself as an expert. I don't know how to do that. What I do know how to do is get in front of as many people as possible, have some value, and then the invitations will come to you. And so responding to those workshop proposals was a big thing. And again, that's the only way I could get an opportunity, was like to formally do that. I got the invitations here and there, but so when you talk about marketing, for me, word of mouth was very important. Now, here's the thing. Word of mouth happens regardless. It's not that you have it or you don't. It's what is people's report with their word of mouth. And I'm sure that 100% of the time I didn't get a positive response, but I'd never know. But those that liked me and enjoyed me and thought I could be valuable, they reached out. And so you have to just, I'm a believer. Those who know the Dr. Brandi brand know that I am a believer. And I think it's very important not to despise the days of small beginnings. And there were times when I literally was in rooms with people that would rather have been asleep than listen to me, but I didn't let that stop my energy, my excitement, my humor. Like, I treated them like they were special. And time again, people came up to me afterwards and said, like, you know what, I really didn't want to be here, but you got me by the end. You got me. And I think that character of a speaker and that part of my brand was very important. So, people have to equally focus on their content and their profession as a speaker, but really, what's that brand? A lot of your brand is how you make people feel after they've encountered you. If you can make them feel something, something positive, I think that'll go a long way too.
And what's interesting about when you spoke about basically speaker personality, like whatever your personality is. When I met you, and I don't know if that's just how you are, like on a one-on-one interpersonal, but when I met you, it was kind of like, you were like, hey, yeah, I'm just here. I was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're a speaker? Like, you were so like low key and chill, but like when you speak, like, so I want you to talk about that a little bit as it pertains to your personality. And again, I don't know, maybe that's just how you are. You was like, who is this strange person sitting next to me? Like, I don't know. So could you talk about that for speakers listening and watching? Don't be you, be your personality.
Yes. One of the things that I have seen over the last couple of years is like speakers acting like speakers. It's like a speaker thing that speakers, and like in different industries, like lawyers that like act like lawyerish, and like, corporate people that act corporate-y. And I think speakers do the same thing. And I think that's a dead giveaway to maybe novice speakers, or like you're trying too hard. And I think that even with you, your style and some of the other conferences that both of us have spoken at, where the speakers, one of the things we all have in common is we are real, we are authentic, we are relatable. And you won't say like, oh, I can tell that like those are the speakers. I don't want people to be able to point me out in a crowd and say like, oh, she must be one of the special, I just want to show up on brand, one-on-one, and as well as on stage. And I think that one of the important concepts for people to understand is, you have to, even with leaders and experts from an audience perspective, I don't care how shiny a speaker's resume is. Even when I go to conferences, I don't care, who what their accomplishments were ahead of time. When I'm sitting there as an audience person and I've spent $1,000 or whatever to speak, it's a clean slate. You have to prove to me, you have to earn to me whatever your expertise is. I have to be able to discern, your value. And I think that so many people, because especially those of us who are speakers, but we have also been in audiences, we've sort of bought into this false kind of false superficial branding aspect where, oh, if they say that so and so, like I'm going to throw out Tony Robbins, right? He's a very well known global speaker and he's the bomb in his lane and what he does. But if you put him in front of a group of millennials, I don't know if it's going to resonate the same way. Does that anything negative to him? Not at all. But there's not a one size fits all kind of acceptance rule. And we have to be discerning. And I think that I've used that to my advantage to say, I don't care if I'm in front of corporate executives and CEOs, or if I'm in front of millennials, or I'm in front, the onus is on me to be able to make people a believer in my expertise. And I think that if you are not idolizing speakers, then you as a speaker will not feel any type of way when you maybe don't get that response right away, or people are not really doing that for you. So when I meet someone like you, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Good. I just want to speak to you regular, because I don't know who I'm sitting beside. I may be sitting beside someone special, and I want to treat you the same way I want you to treat me, which is, how are you doing? Not, oh, are you one of the speakers? Oh, so I'm very cognizant of, like, I bring myself very down unless people have already spotted me and they're like, hey, I saw you're one of the speakers. And I'm like, cool. But when I don't have that, initially, I'm just like, look, let's just chop it up, because, the value is in who we are as people behind the speaker. And I think what has made you successful, some of the other people that we run with in our circle, is we are who we are on and off the stage. Now, we may bring more heat on the stage, we may have more fire on the stage, but it's an extension of really who we are. And so we don't put on a speaker's mask and become speakers, we're just that way. And I think that the last thing I'll kind of say is, being a speaker also for me, I speak, but I'm not a speaker. Speaking is an avenue that I use it's a conduit for me to be able to share. I could write, I could blog, I could act, I could, you know what I'm saying? So anyone who's aspiring to be a speaker and to have it's a platform. That's all it is. And if you understand the difference between your identity as a speaker and a platform as a speaker, I think people will go a lot further and be able to kind of weather the ups and downs of this career.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said that, because that I had to make that shift in my mindset recently. I mean, in the last couple of years. And because I think, and especially as of this recording, the pandemic is going on and all that stuff, a lot of stand and deliver speakers are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And I know your pockets got hit. I know mine got hit. But
yes.
knowing that, okay, this is just a way for me to get my message out, standing live and in person. What are some other ways? Oh, I got these books over here. Or I have this avenue. You've done well with, getting LinkedIn as something, that you can do. So when you're a profit center, I want you to kind of mention something that you, in our last, on my podcast, the Odell Bazell Show, make sure you check out the Odell Bazell Show on Apple Podcasts.
Telling you, you have some great episodes. We have some great episodes.
On that episode, I believe we led with you saying that you can get paid for what's inside of your mind, and so that doesn't matter. If you're watching this or listening to this and you're not, well, I don't want to be a speaker like Dr. Brandi, or I don't want to, but you want to get paid for what's in your mind. Talk about that, how that can start for the person that's not necessarily wanting to be a stand on stage deliver person, or somebody, in our industry that's like, yo, I don't know how I'm gonna get these coins now.
Absolutely. One of the things I think that people don't realize is, you become being a speaker, being an expert and using that platform, there's not a end point. you just grow and get better, right? And so people are like, am I a speaker or not a speaker? Am I a good speaker or not? Trust y'all, if you were to attend some of my sessions over 10 years ago, they were great for the stage that I was at, but they were nowhere near where I am now. And so people have to understand, start where you are, start with what you know. The greatest thing about using speaking as a platform to monetize and to be an expert is that is no overhead. Literally, I was taking information that I learned from my master's program, remixing it and repackaging it for educators, and I created a whole new lane for myself. You only need to be smarter than the people in your audience. You don't have to be the smartest. So if I am super, super smart about how to do live stream interviews during a pandemic, which we're doing right now, if I feel like I know how to do that and I've mastered that in the last couple of weeks of quarantine, why not put that together and package it and teach it to somebody else? Now, I was using that example being facetious, but everything you've mastered, you become an expert at, and you only have to train the people who don't have that level of expertise. And so I wasn't training teachers on, how to sustain a career in education after 10 years. It's like, that wasn't my lane. I don't know how to do that after 10 years. But what I do know is this one little bit of how to deal with difficult parents because of my experience or whatever. So think about it that way. The other thing is, you have to give the people what they want. And I think sometimes we spend a lot of time trying to figure out that signature talk, like, what is my lane? What is my topic? And we overthink it. And 9 times out of 10, if you're even considering being a speaker, people already come to you to be a resource for something. When it comes to LinkedIn stuff, people would always ask me, how do you do that on your LinkedIn? Yo, you're killing it on LinkedIn. I always see you on LinkedIn. Now, was I a LinkedIn's expert or strategist? No, I just happened to beta test and pilot test different things on LinkedIn to get a little bit more engagement and traction. Then I thought, hey, maybe I can package this up and teach other people how to do that, how to brand, so I was able to monetize that for a season. And so I think it's very important for people not to devalue the little thing that because, the person that doesn't even know that will see that as value. So, and you can start, literally right away. The other thing is some of those platform kind of from the stage speakers who may be struggling and figuring out how to pivot, you're going to have to learn from those of us who are in the consulting world as well. So I started with consulting, organizational development, professional development, and moved to the stage. And so when you think about it, how can you be more specific with your information? A lot of times when we're speaking from a stage, we're drawing out themes, we're inspiring, we're motivating. But can you take those same concepts and apply it to a professional group and say, lawyers probably really could learn a lot about this right now. Teachers can probably really learn a lot about emotional intelligence. So let me do emotional intelligence for educators. Let me try to tailor something for them. Instead of these examples, let me swap those out with some student examples. All of a sudden, it becomes custom. You can add more value to what you're doing if it kind of feels customized. And so, understand that knowledge is something that makes the world go round. We live in a society right now based on people's ideas, a concept. Like America was structured and developed based on a group of people's ideas, something in their mind that they executed. And so, hey, ideas are more valuable than we think. And I think that, anyone right now who's trying to figure out kind of how to pivot, don't go too far. Your book. If you have a book that you've already written, I would have a full-blown Zoom lives every single week, every chapter of the book. We're going deep into the book, guys. Buy your book on Amazon. We're going to be starting to break down the concepts of my book. Next thing you know, if your book has 6 chapters, that's 6 weeks of content. Record it, package it, then sell it to that same group of people and say, hey, you have access to this course. So don't try to reinvent the wheel, because 9 times out of 10, your expertise, you already have it. You just need to use a different type of platform to get it to your audience.
And that idea that you just said right there, like taking your book, let me see if I got books everywhere. I got books. I got this. This is so I'm gonna give just a crazy example. Okay. So this book See if y'all can see this. Oops, we don't want to do that. Green screen. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson.
I have that same book. Let me see. Is mine here? Mine is downstairs. I have that exact same book. Okay.
And so let's say you don't have a book. And I just want to pull this idea out because I want you all watching this or listening to this to get something to do, like right after. I don't have a book, Dr. Brandi. I don't have a book, Odell. Like what? The Miseducation of a Negro was written by Carter G. Woodson in the 1930s. Most people don't read books. Most people don't. So if you took this language, because it's a different language, it's a little different, and you made it modern and you pulled a concept out, chapter 5, he says the failure to learn to make a living. All you do is you change it, you remix that and say, hey, we're doing a study or a report on miseducation of Negro in 2020. And then you go through that, like Dr. Brandi said, you record it, you remix it, you put your spin on it or whatnot, and you could have a product. And one thing I like to say is that if you don't think you're an expert at something, become an expert student. And so that's really important. And then this book, I want to put this up, see if you can see it.
Yeah, just pull it over a little bit. Yeah, we can see it, The Bridge.
The Bridge. I wrote this book. This is Odell's book. This is a fiction book. But the first chapter, every chapter is so the first chapter is deep breath in, deep breath out. Now, I'm not talking about self-care here, but I sure could remix it. Sure could.
Remix.
The second chapter is you need a mentor. You need a mentor. That's the second chapter. And so as we're going here again, and I'll go back to Dr. Brandi, and on that mentorship point, how does one listening to this, watching this, and whatever they want to go to, how do they go up to their mentor or the mentor the person that they want to mentor them? So let's say a young lady is watching this, or somebody says, I want Dr. Brandi to be my mentor. How should they come at you?
Well, I get a lot of mentorship requests, and unfortunately, I turn down probably 99% of them. This is what I would recommend. If you identify someone that you're like, yo, I think they can mentor me, the first thing is to do an assessment on why you would want them to be your mentor. Some people, we think we want them to mentor us, but they just got great energy. We're like, I just want to be around you. Like, I just feel like there's some motivation. There's some chutzpah. There's some, you're hype. I can tell you're focused. I can tell. So it's like, it's not mentorship that you need. You're trying to be a part of my network, a part of my community, and there's a place for that. But think why some people, there literally is knowledge. It's like, look, I need some knowledge from you. Whatever that is, after you kind of figure out what it is that you need from them, see what resources they already have. So for me, it's like, well, I'll ask people, have you bought my book yet? Have you read my book? Have you looked at my YouTube videos? Do you follow me on social media? Because I have a decent amount of resources, even more than I'm going to be pumping out soon. But it's like, make sure that you consumed all of that. The reason why I'm saying that is because if you want a mentorship relationship to have some value, I want you to come to me and say, look, I read the book, I did this, I follow you with this, and I still have a gap in this area so that I can help you. I don't want to mentor you on something that chapter 1 of my book could have helped you with. It's wasting my time. And you could have already learned that skill, practiced that skill. So for your personal benefit, to get the best out of a mentorship, opportunity, exhaust all the resources. A lot of people don't know. TD Jakes is my personal mentor. Will Smith is my personal mentor. Joe Osteen is my personal mentor. Why? Because I'm on their YouTube channels every day. Do I know them? No. Do they know me? No. Do I have their phone numbers and emails? I do not. But I consume so much of their content so that it would be disrespectful for me to go up to TD Jakes and say, hey, could you mentor me? It's like, ma'am, I'm putting out sermons every single week. I have books. I have a community. I have that. Now, if you do identify someone to be your mentor, one of the things that you have to be clear on is, what's the end goal? Because a lot of people, they frame things as mentorship, but they secretly want to be your friend. They frame things as mentorship, but they just want to be around your energy. So you have to be pure with your intentions and say, hey, I want you to mentor me for the next 6 months, because I have a goal that in the next 7 months, I would love to get hired here. I would like to start speaking on stages. And I from what I know, because I saw the interview with you and Odell, it should take me X amount of months. So in 90 days, could you mentor me specifically for this reason? Because for me, I love to spend my time on something that has an end result. I'll invest in you if I can see that because of that investment, wow, yo, they just started speaking or they launched their program. What I don't want to do is spend time with somebody, being their career counselor, their business counselor, their support, their motivation, and they're like, oh my gosh, and then they don't execute. Like, I need to send you an invoice for that, So understand also who you're dealing with. I had someone maybe 2 years ago now, and she saw me speak. And ever since then, anytime I'm speaking at a public, open forum for like a couple months after, she was there. She's like, hey, everybody. After like 3 times, I was like, well, do you want to do, can you take some social media for me? Here goes my phone. Can you like do some social? She's like, sure. And then after that, I was like, you know what? We have a board opening on one of our boards. We'd like to be a board member. She was like, sure. And then it turned into something organic because she served. She was there. She was present. And here's the thing that I didn't know until after the fact. She said, it's crazy how now I'm on a board at one of your companies. It's a volunteer board, so she's volunteering. And she said, I'm getting the leadership development that I really wanted to begin with. That's why I was at that original event. And now I'm able to actually use my leadership development skills. Now, if she would have came up to me and said, can you mentor me? I would have been like, I just don't have the time. But, you have to be savvy. And last thing I'll say, Odell, because I'm a talker, Odell. You just got to ask me one question. 30 minutes later, I'll still be talking. But last thing I'll say about the mentorship piece is it's very important to be honest about your intentions, because there are a lot of opportunists out here. And so, again, you don't want to give, oh, I'll show up. Can I carry your bag? Oh, can I do your social media? And because you're hoping that if you do a couple of things, you're waiting to ask for something back. Just serve. Let it be organic. And if your intentions are in the right place, you will be able to, reap what you sow, and people will see that. But every once in a while, I get someone who kind of like, they wiggle themselves in, and I sit back and I go, oh, okay, it wasn't genuine to begin with. They're trying to, be attached or connected for some other reason. And so investing time in those different levels of engagement with people, whether it's mentor, friendship, associate, business person, network, whatever, is very important. Yeah.
Man, and I appreciate that, because one of my closest mentors, he's now a friend of mine. He literally made me chase him for 2 years. And he told me that. And it was one of those things where my root mentor, my original, the first person that poured into my life outside of my family or inner circle, he introduced me to him. So it wasn't like it was like I just
random.
He introduced me, and for 2 years, he was like, I'm gonna just see what you're gonna do. And he told me afterwards, he was like, you'd be surprised at how many people come at me and I say, hey, go do this, go do this. You're one of the few people that actually went and did something, went and made something of yourself, came back. And so that's what's important. So for those of you watching and listening, I love what you said. Do you want to be their friend? Do you just like them? Or do you want them to help you go forward? And because that mentorship relationship is very different from a friendship, from an acquaintanceship. Like, personally, and I know we talked about this a little bit, the applications are closed for new friends. Actually, I really don't.
Yeah, we don't have the new friend stimulus package. That package, we ran out of funds for the new friend. The new friend fund is no. Yeah, it's gone, wiped out.
Yeah, just don't have it. And not to be mean or anything like that, but we only have enough bandwidth for our families, for our businesses, for ourselves anyway. So when you're watching this and when you're going through all of these interviews, check out the interview that I did with Delatoro McNeil. When I first met him in person, I was in the audience. We were both at the same conference, speaking at the same conference. I was in the audience and I was like, bro, I just want to meet you in person. Do you need any help? And he was like, actually, can you help me get these testimonials? Can you help me with this table? And I'm like, bet, whatever you need. And then after that, it's been cool. Like, that's my guy now. And so
Yes.
focus on service first. And I want to get you out of here on this. Again, thank you so much for your time. If somebody is looking at what you've done, like I said, you're Googleable, all that stuff. They're looking at what you've done and like, wow, I can't believe she did this at this age. She got her PhD, she got this, she got that. What is a struggle or a couple of struggles that they don't see that ring in your head or that stand out in your mind?
Ooh, that's a good one. So the first thing is, I would say doubt. Anytime you do something, I was someone, I to this day, all jokes aside with the TD Jakes and all that, I have never had a mentor. I've never had someone to usher me along. I have never, I don't know if I would still want one. I'm like, wouldn't it be good to just, somebody, I've never been a part of a crew. I've never been a part of where it's just like, you see sort of these groups of people that they run together, or you'll see influencers that like, I've never really had that. And so I had to do a lot on my own. I had to do a lot being blind, being naive. I had to do my own research. Like when you talk about big brick by brick, I built my brand brick by brick without a blueprint. I didn't know, which I think has helped. So I'll flip this into some advice for someone is like, so many people are looking at what other people are doing and how other people have their brand. And I love the idea of take the best, leave the rest. But at the end of the day, who are you? And I think that a lot of the mistakes I made, which I learned from, but some of them actually paid off. The quote unquote mistakes or the things that I did, it kind of paid off. But I think the doubt is something that is consistent. Every time you're leveling up, every time you're trying to launch a new project, every time you want to publish a new book, there's a little bit of doubt there. I don't want to say fear because it's not really fear. It's just that I want to make sure I'm using the right words for people, but I think a little bit of that doubt. So I want people to know that that's normal. But the thing is, if you are doubting things to the point that you're procrastinating, that you are not able to execute and do anything, then that's a totally, like, you should not have analysis paralysis. That's not doubt. That's literally low self-esteem and a whole bunch of other things, right? So I think that people don't see like the doubt you have to push through. I think people don't see the lack of support. I have family members, they love me for me. They don't love me for what I do. And so, they raised me. I was my cousins, I played with them over the summertime. So they're not impressed by my credentials at all. So Dr. Brandi and all of that cool stuff, and I'm Googleable and stuff. That means absolutely nothing behind closed doors. My kids could care less. They're like, can you fix my food? You know what I'm saying? What's up with my snacks? And so understand that having those private kind of cheerleaders in your corner, a lot of times it may not come from family. It may come from other associates like Odell, you and I, you're able to give positive words of support and vice versa. There are other people in my network that, we're kind of like professional friends. That's where I get that support from. So don't be discouraged if you don't have that family support. I, to this day, keep family separate from business. I don't expect them to acknowledge, give me kudos when they see something and they're like, yo, that was dope. I saw you got that award. Cool. But, it's love. Family is about love, not what I do. So the doubt that creeps up, I would say, not having that support that you think you should have, that you really don't need, from your family for your business aspect. The other thing I will say is they don't see some of the hiccups with regard to like a team. So over the years, I've hired a number of people to work with me, whether they're contractors, part-time employees, you name it, interns, and people. Look, I have become very good at creating the systems and processes for having people around that are legitimately wanting to see whatever I'm working on succeed. Really quickly, I'm just going to mention this about the people, because I think a lot of people will get discouraged. A lot of entrepreneurs, speakers will get discouraged because if they encounter people that maybe they thought would be helpful, that just aren't. And those may be family members or friends or whoever. But this is what I'm going to say, and we can end kind of on this note. There are 3 types of people that are going to be attracted to you when you're building something. And I'm not talking about full-time employees. I'm just talking about people. These can be friends, family members. These can be contractors, interns. Number 1 are going to be the people that are attracted to helping you for you. They really like you. They're down for whatever you do. You could be selling water to whales tomorrow, and they'll be like, dope, I'll get the t-shirts printed. We'll be down at the beach. I got my bucket. I got my sand. Like, whatever you do, they're ride or die for you. Now, here the challenge with those people are, as you grow, as you develop, as things get busy, if you're not able to give them as much of that one-on-one time that they started with you for, they're going to get less engaged. And so in the past, I've made the mistake of not understanding that, this person was really here for me. And as things grew, I kind of kept them in their role, not realizing they wanted to be close to me. The more I traveled, the more I was out there. And so I lost some great people and some great relationships, and people who probably could have been really tried and true for me, because things are moving so fast and I didn't see that, right? The second person are people that are there for their role. They love what they do. So you may have a social media person, a marketing person, accountant. Like, they love numbers. They love marketing. They love, they just want to spend their day in, day out doing that technical thing that they learn how to do. Now, for those of us who are small business owners and entrepreneurs, we know it's all hands on deck sometimes. Sometimes I need people to help ship books. Sometimes I need people to help with other things. Those people that love their technical skills, they don't want to be all hands on deck. They don't want to help set up for the event if they're the accountant. They don't want to help, set, with something else if they're the marketing social media person. Like, so be mindful, because early on, if you need all hands on deck, they're going to burn out. They're not going to be interested. And you're going to be like, why did they kind of fade out? Well, that's because they're not able to do what they really love. The last person is going to be people that are attached to the mission. So if you're talking about student leaders, they're like, I like student leadership. I don't like you that much. I don't necessarily, care about the skills. You can put me wherever, but everything that you're doing and everything about your brand is to help student leaders. I want to be a part of it. Now, the tricky part with that is, we all know as entrepreneurs and speakers and small business owners that our companies kind of pivot sometimes. So you may be on student leadership for a year or two, then you may switch to diversity and inclusion. Well, if that person is not really into diversity and inclusion, all of a sudden they'll fade away. So be able to understand, number one, you need help. You need a team. Understand which different kind of buckets they fall in, and know that there probably is going to be an expiration date, and that's okay. It's a natural. It has nothing to do with you, but plan for that ahead of time. And I think that behind the scenes, I have really fumbled the ball. Probably took me like 2 to 3 years of being like, why, I can't find the right people and I can't find the right support, until I understood that principle. And so it's a challenge, it's a struggle. And the thing that keeps me motivated above all of sort of the tactical things are what I'm doing. I feel like is ordained by God. I feel like it's a part of my purpose. Inside of your spirit, anyone who's listening, if you're doing something, or you're working a 9 to 5, or you're in an area that just doesn't really fit, that if it doesn't really feed you, I will wake up and do everything for free. You understand? Like, literally, I would do this for free, to my core. And so, for anyone who is trying to think about how they're going to pivot and what they're going to do, make sure that it's in alignment with your purpose. You'll go a lot further, and you will be able to reap those benefits and have that longevity when everyone else is jumping on a fad or jumping on a trend or making decisions out of fear, making decisions out of lack. Figure out what you're going to do and be comfortable with that. In order to be here. And this is the last thing I'm going to say before I let you wrap up your show, Odell, is, and I just thought, it just came into my mind when I was speaking out loud. I literally launched that consultancy and that facilitation company, which was just me, but I literally launched that in the midst of the 2008 recession. Just so people know, I launched it in the middle of a time when everyone was laid off. The real estate market was shattered. People and millennials who graduated with degrees couldn't even get jobs in their own field. And I launched out at that time. And so, right? And so this is a full circle moment. I want people to understand, think short term and think long term. Short term, get that money, feed your kids, do whatever you have to do. But if you have a long term goal that you want to pursue, there is never a good time than the present. And the person, I'm thanking my 20 something, I was like 24 23. So this is over 10 years ago. So I'm thanking my 23-year-old self for doing that then. Now, so when you're 10 years older from now, when 2030 is here, what will you be able to thank your current self for doing to set yourself up for success?
I like that. That's really good. How can if somebody wants to reach out to you and obviously not get coached by you because you ain't got the time, but if
I don't know, cash at me, send me the cash app, and then request to get coaching from me, and I might open up some slots. You never know.
Well, what's the best way to get in contact with you, to reach out to you?
Definitely go to drbrandi.com, all spelled out, Dr. Brandi with an I.com. That's the hub for everything. And of course, on social media at the Dr. Brandi. I'm very accessible. Reach out, let me know what you need, how I can help, and I'll definitely make sure to share. See, if you don't ask for mentorship and you don't ask for coaching, you just ask a question, you can get some free advice from me. So you don't got to make it all formal. Just reach out and ask for what you want and get some advice. So yeah.
What's your cash app?
Oh, my cash app is is cash symbol the Dr. Brandi.
All right.
Wink.
Dollar sign at the Dr. Brandi. Dr. Brandi got a house, she got kids, she got gas. I'm just saying.
Look, okay. Somebody has to keep my hair detangle budget. You know what I'm saying? Has to be thriving right now. Y'all see this, so somebody has to keep it activated, moisturized. Okay?
We ended the interview like a minute and a half ago. So if you're still here, you don't have to be here anymore.
It's the after show. It's the after show.
The after party. Appreciate y'all, everybody. I got some great interviews coming up. If you have not checked them out already, make sure that you do that. But this is Odell Bazell. See you at the top, not from the top. God bless.